Hello everybody, welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. So today we are talking about another story out of Dark Carnival by Ray Bradbury. This story is called The Traveler. It was first published in Weird Tales magazine in March of 1946, and it's about the same family that we were reading about in The Homecoming. So it's kind of fun to go back and visit them again. This is mostly about Cece, who is a very interesting member of the family. She's the one who sleeps most of the time because she is out traveling, like her spirit leaves her body or her mind leaves her body or something. She's out traveling the world and inhabiting other people. And probably the most fascinating thing about her is as she leaves the people or the animals or whatever, generally they die. It's not her leaving that kills them. I think she actually puts them in a position where they do get killed as she leaves. But that doesn't happen every time. I really enjoy this story. I think it's really good. I do believe that this one wanders just a little bit in the middle for me. It has a tendency to go on and on a bit. In a very nostalgic way, talking about the town, about the barber shop, and about the different people or animals that she might inhabit. But overall, I really did enjoy this. It just seemed to go on a bit in the middle. So the basic premise of this story is the father of this family is worried that Cece isn't contributing enough to keep the family afloat because she just sleeps all the time. So he feels that she needs to prove her worth. Right at this time, another family member named Uncle John shows up who has a big problem that Cece might be able to help out with. So that's just the basic premise of the story. Now I'm going to go into some spoilers real quick. I'm sure that if you're watching this, you've probably read the story, but just in case, I do want to say that. So Uncle John shows up to the house, and it turns out that Uncle John is really kind of a traitor to the family. He, in the past, has given up information to the police so that they could go and stake, is what they call it in the story, so that they could go and kill members of this family so that he could receive a bounty. I think they say that he got like $100 for each person that he turned in that the police could stake. And I do find this kind of an interesting plot point. It's 1946 when this was written, so World War II is over. Of course, McCarthyism hasn't exploded yet. That's not a thing yet, I don't believe. So I wonder, and this is just speculation on my part, of course, I wonder if this had anything to do with the Japanese internment camps. I don't believe that people had to be turned in for being Japanese, of course. But I do wonder about spies, like German spies, or I wonder if there was a certain amount of paranoia coming through the United States. I'm not a scholar on this subject or anything like that. It's just interesting to me that this story is about someone who ratted people out. You know what I mean? That's an interesting subject to bring up in 1946. And I appreciate that he's the bad guy. I think that's kind of a cool point of this story, is that ratting out this family was a very bad thing to do. So Uncle John shows up to the house. Everybody hates him, of course. Even there's these little cousins that are playing in the backyard, 3 little girls. And they hear him come to the door and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Uncle John. We hate him. You know, and they talk about how he has stakes and he wants to kill people. And I really appreciated the idea that the kids had overheard the adults talking about other family members and they've just kind of adopted their opinions about those family members. I thought that was kind of fun and cute. So Uncle John has a big problem, which is that he's going insane. He can hear these bells ringing and he's seeing corpses, people with stakes in them. He's being tortured. He feels like he's been possessed. So he needs Cece's help in order to cleanse him. Now, by the time he arrives at the house looking for a cleansing, Cece's already gone. Once she leaves her body and starts traveling around, you can't contact her. You just have to wait for her to come back, and sometimes that could take days or even a week. So Uncle John, of course, is very desperate. He's yelling at her and grabbing her arm, checking her pulse, all kinds of things. And the mother tells him, don't move her around, because if you move her too much, she won't be able to come back the same way that she left, which I thought was a very interesting, cool point about Cece. I don't think that came up in the other story. It's been a while since we read The Homecoming, but I think that's an interesting new point, that she has to stay exactly in the position she's in, or she may not be able to make it back. So Uncle John says, I need her back by 5 o'clock today before I lose my mind, or I'm going to go to the police and tell them about your whole family. I know where you guys are living in other farms. I will rat you guys out. And he leaves. So he goes down into town and he's looking for Cece. He feels like he could tell if she had possessed somebody, and he'd be able to talk to that possessed person and talk to Cece and tell her to go back to her body so that she could help him. Or maybe even just jump from that person straight into his mind. And he doesn't have any luck. He roams the town, and this is where that part that I was talking about goes on just a little bit, describing the town, describing the people, describing the various types of animals and people that she might inhabit. It does go a little bit into his insanity, which I did enjoy. Hearing bells ringing, seeing the corpses. There's a point where a blackbird literally swoops down and grabs hair off of his head. I have had a couple birds swoop at me in the past, but it's mostly because I think I must have been close to their nest. But never have I had a bird actually hit me or try to rip my hair out. I'm not sure what that was about. But he interprets it as that must be Cece and she's attacking him. So he turns around so that the bird, to face away from the bird, so that the bird will come down again. And as it comes down, he whips around and catches it, which is pretty amazing. And he talks to it, and it doesn't respond like Cece would, so he just kills it and drops it. He's a very bad guy. So he ends up going to another member of the family who works in the morgue. But when he gets there, he says, I need your help. And the person says, do you know who I am? And he says, yeah, you're one of the members of the family. And he says, no, I'm actually the butcher. Cece has replaced the butcher with me and me with the butcher. I think the butcher might be a member of the family as well, because the butcher's not flipping out. He's like, it's a funny joke. I'm a meat cutter. This guy's basically a meat cutter. So we've been traded. He's going to be super pissed when he gets home tonight because he doesn't take kindly to Cece's jokes. But he's like, I don't believe this job would be too hard because I'm already a butcher. So he's just standing there staring at this dead body, wondering what he should do. It's kind of a weird little scene. I did like it. I am not positive if it's true or not. I don't know if that person's just lying to him because they don't like him, or if literally Cece flipped these two. Maybe Cece left. Okay, sorry. In the end, it turns out that Cece has possessed Uncle John. Uncle John is possessed, but he's not possessed by some weird demon or his past haunting him. He's possessed by Cece, and she's been torturing him. That's how she's going to prove that she has worth to the family as a traveler to her dad, so that her dad doesn't make her go get a normal day job or something. So it's possible that Cece left Uncle John's brain and went into her brother's brain and made up this crazy story about being replaced by the butcher just to drive Uncle John more crazy. Or it's completely true. I don't know. Somehow I doubt it because I feel like she's in Uncle John. I also feel like if she left Uncle John, he would feel different. I don't know. That was a weird, confusing part. It is enjoyable. It's just a tiny bit strange. So Uncle John realizes this is probably a dead end because he's talking to the butcher, who maybe isn't part of the family, although knows a lot about the family. I'm not sure. He runs out of there and he ends up going back to the house where Cece is. And he runs upstairs and he tries to talk to her again. The mom is pushing him away from Cece laying on the bed. And in the end, he ends up taking out a knife and killing himself. falls on the floor. And of course, that's when Cece says, "It's me, I was here all along," right? Because she is kind of a weird trickster. So she explains that she was the one possessing him. She drove him insane. Then she killed him. And her dad is going to be very happy. And she won't have to get a day job. And that's the story. And it was fun. I did enjoy it. I think that this book specifically, Dark Carnival, was a really big step for Ray Bradbury, not only because it was the first book that he had published, but because he could collect his past and move on from there. But the crazy thing is, I feel like he kind of leveled up as a writer before it was published. There are certain stories in here that are just mind-blowingly good. And I don't mean the ideas. I mean the writing. The writing is so incredible. And then there's stories like this one where you can see that he's getting there, but he hasn't reached that level yet. I feel like right before they decided to do this, he wrote a couple stories that he had really leveled up with, and then they decided to do this. So he got a bunch of old stuff and a couple new things at the time new that were just incredible, and some old stuff that just wasn't quite there yet. And I feel like this just wasn't quite there yet. It is really good, of course. And it's super dark. This is certainly influenced by the Addams Family. I believe it was the Addams Family that we talked about in the previous video. There was a comic strip that really influenced him, and he ended up getting a painting by the person who did the comic strip, I think. You'll have to go back and watch that other video because I'm just trying to pull that up from memory. But that certainly is a big influence on this. But the thing that I love about this is it truly is dark. It really is more like what it would probably be for a monster family trying to exist in our world, which I really appreciated. I know that Tim Burton did an Addams Family television show just recently about the little girl in the series. And even that, I don't believe, goes as far as this, as dark as this. And I wish it did. I've never been a huge fan of Tim Burton because I always felt like he wasn't as dark as he claimed to be or as people perceived him to be. But this really is, and I really enjoy that side of Ray Bradbury and that side of this family that he's created. I think it's super fun. Okay, so that's it for the story. There is one other tiny thing that I wanted to point out. In my research for this story, I came across, I've got some notes here, I came across a reprint of Dark Carnival, which I didn't realize existed. It's by Gauntlet Press, and it came out in 2001. When I look at the Gauntlet Press website, it just looks like it's a reprint of Dark Carnival. It's got a beautiful hardcover, of course. You could get it with a clamshell if you wanted. It's mostly sold out. There's like one used copy on there that's like $400, right? I could never spend $400 on a book, but I wanted to point it out in case somebody else could. But then when I was looking at another website, it said that this included 5 extra stories, which I found very interesting. Now, I looked through October Country, and October Country has 4 extra stories that were not in Dark Carnival. So my first thought was, oh, he's just got the October Country stories in Dark Carnival as well. But there's only 4. So I don't know if what I'm reading is not correct. I feel like if there was 5 extra stories, they would have listed them on the Gauntlet Press website. But there's no indication of extra stories, so I'm not sure. They do talk about the fact that the cover art is done by Ray Bradbury. It's an oil painting that he did. It looks pretty cool. It's dark and scary. They talk about the fact that Clive Barker wrote an afterword, because apparently Clive Barker is a huge Ray Bradbury fan. And who isn't, right? Of course. But they don't mention any extra stories. So I don't know. If you have any information on this or you own a copy of this, let me know down in the comments. I think it'd be interesting to just kind of know what this is. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe because we have so much. And have a great day.